Have you ever wondered why some people seem to move through life as if reality itself bends to their will, while others struggle endlessly against invisible forces they can't even name? What if I told you that the most dangerous secret ever concealed wasn't written in Machiavelli's The Prince, but hidden between its lines, a code so powerful that those who discovered it were sworn to silence? Let me be direct with you. What you're about to hear goes against everything you've been taught about power, success, and the nature of reality itself. For centuries, a select few have known that the universe operates not as a cold, mechanical system, but as something far more mysterious, a responsive field that mirrors back the precise frequency of what you broadcast from within. But before we begin, please hit the like button and let me know where in the world you're watching from today. It's always fascinating seeing who's joining us from around the world. And if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of our future videos. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Machiavelli understood something that modern society has deliberately obscured. True power doesn't come from manipulating others. It comes from mastering the invisible architecture of reality itself. While everyone focused on his political strategies, they missed the deeper code embedded in his work. He knew that those who shape the world don't just react to circumstances. They generate them from a place most people never access. Think about this for a moment. Has this ever happened to you? You wake up feeling inexplicably heavy, and suddenly the entire day seems to conspire against you. Traffic lights turn red, people become difficult, opportunities vanish. Then, another day, you wake up feeling unstoppable, and doors open effortlessly. Strangers help you, solutions appear from nowhere. You dismissed it as coincidence, didn't you? That's exactly what you were conditioned to believe. But there was a woman named Eleanor who noticed something the rest of the world ignores. When her inner state shifted, so did everything around her. Not metaphorically, but literally. The waves, the weather, even the behavior of strangers seemed to dance in perfect synchronization with her emotional frequency. She wasn't imagining it. She had stumbled upon what Machiavelli encoded in his writings. You are not merely walking through a pre-existing world. You are the quiet architect, constantly broadcasting a signal that reality has no choice but to answer. Stay with me until the end, because what you're about to discover might surprise you. There exists a practice, so simple yet so profound that it was deliberately buried beneath centuries of misdirection. 7 minutes. That's all it takes to begin detecting the subtle current of your inner broadcast. The frequency you're sending into the field of infinite possibility. Every single moment of your existence. Most people go their entire lives never realizing they're constantly creating the very circumstances they claim to be victims of. The forbidden code isn't about controlling others through manipulation or force. It's about recognizing that consciousness itself is the primary creative force, and you've been wielding it unconsciously your entire life. The question is, are you ready to wield it with intention? Because once you understand how your inner vibration shapes the external world, once you see the invisible threads connecting your emotional state to every circumstance that manifests around you, the hardest truth to accept is that the solid world you see around you, the walls, the streets, the very ground beneath your feet, isn't nearly as fixed as you've been led to believe. What appears to be concrete reality is actually the outermost layer of something far more fluid, far more responsive to your inner state than any scientific and textbook would dare admit. Machiavelli understood this. He wrote about power and strategy, but beneath those words was a recognition that reality itself is a projection, a tapestry woven from consciousness, and those who grasp this truth hold a type of influence that no army or wealth can match. Here's where most people get it wrong. They've heard about the law of attraction, about positive thinking, about manifesting desires, but that's just the surface layer, a watered-down version of something far more profound. Your consciousness isn't simply attracting experiences like a magnet pulling metal shavings toward it. That's not how this works. The deeper truth, the one that was encoded and hidden, is that your thoughts are not reaching out into the world to grab opportunities. They are the very substance from which those opportunities are born. You are not drawing reality toward you. You are generating it from within, moment by moment, through the silent broadcast of your beliefs, your assumptions, your emotional frequency. If this kind of content speaks to you, if you want to keep diving deeper into these hidden truths, go ahead and subscribe. This channel exists for those who refuse to stay on the surface, and I want you here for what's coming next. Think about the implications of that for a second. Every limitation you accept as unchangeable, every boundary you assume is solid. These aren't truths handed down from some external authority. They are agreements you made, often without realizing it, and those agreements became the invisible architecture shaping what you experience. When you assume struggle is inevitable, reality weaves that struggle into your path. When you assume certain doors are closed to you, they remain closed, not because they must, but because your consciousness generated that outcome from its own substance. Now, I want to go even deeper into this hidden truth, because there's a reason you forgot this power in the first place. Before you came into this world, before the journey of forgetting began, there was a sacred agreement, not a punishment, not some cosmic mistake, but an intentional choice. Your soul agreed to temporarily veil its creative authority, to step into this experience without the full memory of what you truly are. Why? Because the adventure of remembrance, the impact of rediscovering your power after having forgotten it, creates a depth of understanding that could never exist otherwise. You chose to become the forgotten initiate so that one day, in a moment like this, you could wake up and reclaim what was always yours. This isn't about positive thinking or wishful manifestation. This is about recognizing that every decision you make, every belief you hold, every assumption you carry is literally sculpting the substance of your experience. The transformation doesn't happen out there. It happens within the hidden sanctuary of your consciousness. And from that inner shift, reality has no choice but to reorganize itself around your new frequency. If that resonates with you, write in the comments, "I remember." Let me know this truth is stirring something in you, because what comes next will show you exactly how to wield this forgotten authority with precision. The question is no longer whether you have this power. The question is whether you're ready to stop pretending you don't. There's a story about a craftsman named Edwin who spent years working with the same pieces of wood, seeing only what he'd always seen: grain patterns, knots, limitations. One day, looking through a piece of warped glass in his workshop, the familiar wood revealed dimensions he'd never noticed before. New possibilities appeared, not because the wood changed, but because his perception shifted. That's the hidden mechanism Machiavelli encoded in his understanding of power. Perception isn't a passive window through which you observe reality. It's an active selection tool, a filter that determines which possibilities from an infinite field can actually enter your experience. The boundaries you accept in your perception become the walls of your world, and most people never realize they're living in a self-constructed prison. But here's where it gets even more precise. Your thoughts set the framework, yes, but it's your feelings that summon form into being. There was a gardener named Harlan who noticed something extraordinary. On days when joy filled his heart, unexpected gifts would appear. Strangers would offer help, opportunities would emerge from nowhere. Even the plants seemed to respond with unusual vitality. Yet when fear crept in, obstacles materialized with equal precision. This wasn't coincidence or magical thinking. The universe operates on a frequency-based system, and your emotions are the broadcast signal. Each feeling you sustain sends out a specific vibration into the infinite field, and reality responds with mathematical precision, arranging circumstances that match that exact frequency. Think about the implications of this for your own journey. Every decision you make while dominated by fear will generate outcomes that confirm that fear. Every choice rooted in certainty and peace will draw experiences that validate that state. The transformation you seek isn't about changing your external circumstances through effort. It's about shifting the emotional frequency you're broadcasting, because that frequency is the magnet that determines what can approach you and what must remain distant. Now, underneath both perception and feeling lies something even more foundational: your beliefs. There's an old story about a merchant who possessed every advantage yet repeatedly failed, while others with far less succeeded effortlessly. A sage told him that his ledgers only showed half the story, that true wealth lived in his convictions, not his coffers. Your beliefs are the invisible architecture pressing form into reality. Like a sculptor's hands shaping clay, they operate beneath your conscious awareness, directing universal energy into patterns that match their essence. When you believe something is impossible, you don't just limit your actions, you restructure the very substance of possibility itself, making that impossibility a self-fulfilling prophecy. The revelations here point to a simple but profound truth. You're not fighting against a fixed world. You're navigating a responsive field that mirrors back whatever foundational beliefs you hold. Change the belief, and the architecture of your reality must reorganize itself accordingly. If you're beginning to see how perception, feeling, and belief work together as the hidden operating system of your experience, drop a comment saying, "The code is breaking," because understanding this trinity is just the beginning of wielding the power that Machiavelli knew separated those who shape history from those who merely react to it. What most people don't understand is that reality operates on a delay mechanism, like an echo bouncing back from distant mountains. There was a merchant named Franklin who noticed something peculiar. The thoughts he held consistently, the emotional tone he maintained day after day, would manifest as his circumstances weeks or even months later. Every thought you think rings out across time like a bell in a tower, sending vibrations into the fabric of existence, and those vibrations must return to you as physical experience. The universe operates with such precision that each frequency you broadcast inevitably draws its matching circumstances back to you. This is why your present situation is a perfect reflection of your past mental atmosphere, and why the reality you'll walk through tomorrow is being shaped by the frequency you're holding right now, in this very moment. But here's the part that makes people uncomfortable. The universe doesn't respond to what you say you want. It doesn't care about your wishes, your hopes, or your carefully crafted vision boards. What it does is hold up a flawless mirror, reflecting back exactly who you believe yourself to be at the deepest level of your consciousness. A man named Thomas discovered this the hard way when a sage showed him that every struggling circumstance, every failed relationship, every missed opportunity was simply the universe showing him his own self-concept with brutal honesty. Your external world is not random or unfair. It's a precise redoubt of the image you hold of yourself beneath all the surface-level desires and affirmations. The transformation begins not when you change what you want, but when you change who you believe you are. Now I want to go even deeper into something that exists behind the scenes of all this. When your mind becomes truly still, when the constant noise of thought finally quiets, something extraordinary happens. There was a scholar named Caleb who spent years searching ancient texts until one dawn, in complete silence, he saw it. A luminous geometric pattern that seemed to emerge from nowhere and everywhere at once. This wasn't imagination. It was a direct perception of the underlying blueprint of creation itself, a sacred map showing exactly how energy flows from consciousness into form. Different people see this pattern differently, but its essence remains constant. It reveals the hidden architecture of manifestation, the precise pathways through which your inner state becomes your outer experience. What Machiavelli understood, what he embedded in his coded writings, was that true power comes from aligning with these fundamental patterns, not from manipulating surface-level circumstances. The journey isn't about forcing reality to bend to your will through effort and strategy. It's about recognizing that you are already generating reality from within. And when you align your self-concept with what you desire, when you maintain the frequency that matches your vision, the universe has no choice but to mirror that back to you with mathematical precision. The revelations keep building, and each one strips away another layer of the illusion that you're separate from the creative force itself. If you're starting to see the pattern behind all of this, the hidden truth that connects perception, feeling, belief, resonance, and self-concept into one unified system, type "I see the pattern" below. There's an invisible architecture operating behind everything you experience, and once you see it, you can never unsee it. A woman named Beatrice started noticing patterns in her daily life that seemed too precise to be coincidence. Opportunities arriving at specific moments, obstacles appearing when her mindset shifted, relationships transforming in sync with her internal changes. She realized that three forces were constantly interacting to shape her reality: the vibration she emanated moment by moment, the assumptions she held about what was possible for her, and the deepest template of identity she carried about who she truly was. These weren't separate elements working independently. They formed a unified architecture, an invisible geometry that determined exactly what could manifest in her experience and what remained forever out of reach. Most people focus entirely on changing their external circumstances while completely ignoring the internal atmosphere they're maintaining. There was a man named Elias who discovered that reality operates like a sophisticated weather system, constantly reading and responding to his emotional climate. When he sustained an atmosphere of peace within himself, peaceful resolutions would materialize in his external world. When anxiety dominated his inner environment, complications would emerge with eerie precision. The revelations here point to something radical. Your emotional atmosphere isn't just affecting your mood or your perception. It's literally acting as a filter, determining which possibilities from the infinite field can actually precipitate into your lived experience. The universe treats your emotional state as a matching requirement, and it will only deliver circumstances that resonate with the atmospheric pressure you're maintaining internally. Now think about what this means for the transformation you're seeking. You can't attract a reality that vibrates at a higher frequency than your current emotional atmosphere. It's like trying to tune into a radio station while your dial is set to the wrong frequency. The signal is there, broadcasting constantly, but you can't receive it because you're not matching its vibration. A silversmith named Roland noticed this with startling clarity when he observed that the quality of clients entering his workshop perfectly mirrored his own sense of worth on any given day. When he felt like a master craftsman, distinguished patrons would appear. When doubt crept in, only those seeking cheap repairs would cross his threshold. This is the law of energetic equivalence in action. Your vibrational frequency acts as a gatekeeper, allowing in only those experiences that match your current resonance. If something shifted for you while watching this, show me by hitting the like button. It's a small gesture, but it tells me this resonated, and that connection between us matters. The impact of understanding this cannot be overstated. You're not waiting for reality to change so you can feel better. You're cultivating the internal frequency first, and reality has no choice but to reorganize itself around that new vibration. This is the hidden truth that separates those who consciously create their lives from those who remain perpetual victims of circumstance. The journey isn't about forcing outcomes through action. It's about becoming the energetic equivalent of what you desire, maintaining that frequency regardless of current conditions, and watching as matching circumstances naturally gravitate toward you. If this is clicking for you, if you're beginning to see how vibration, assumption, identity, and emotional atmosphere work together as one unified system, drop "I'm matching the frequency" in the comments. Here's the paradox that most people never grasp. You don't become worthy of your desire by achieving it. You achieve it by becoming the person who naturally receives it first. There was a humble herbalist named Helen who dreamed of studying at the temple with master healers, but for years she remained stuck in her small cottage, believing such opportunities belonged to others. Then something shifted. She began carrying herself with the dignity of a master healer before she had any external validation. She spoke with quiet authority, treated her craft with sacred reverence, moved through her days as someone who already embodied that elevated identity. Within months, a traveling temple master discovered her practice and offered the very apprenticeship she'd longed for. The opportunity didn't arrive because she worked harder or wished more intensely. It came because she matched its frequency by shifting her identity first, and reality had no choice but to reorganize itself around that new sense of self. But here's where the mechanics get even more subtle. Most people approach their desires with clenched fists, desperately grasping, frantically searching, afraid that if they relax for even a moment, everything will slip away. There's a story about a man named Clifford who searched everywhere for a rare orchid his beloved had mentioned, rushing from stall to stall in the marketplace, growing more exhausted and desperate with each failed attempt. Finally, he collapsed beneath a tree to rest, and in that moment of surrender, he noticed a gentle fragrance. The very orchid he'd been chasing was growing peacefully right there in the shade. The hidden truth revealed itself. What you chase retreats from you, while what you allow flows naturally into your experience. The universe responds not to your frantic efforts, but to your state of being. Closed fists signal scarcity and desperation, pushing opportunities away. Open hands signal trust and receptivity, creating space for abundance to arrive effortlessly. Now, I want to go even deeper into how this actually works in practice, because understanding the principle intellectually is one thing, but applying it is where the real transformation happens. Think about a gardener named Gerald, who noticed that his roses flourished when he made gentle adjustments rather than aggressive interventions. Where his neighbors hacked and forced their plants into submission, Gerald simply guided growth with the lightest touch, and his garden became the most vibrant in the entire valley. This is the silent ritual of alignment. Manifestation doesn't require force or strain. It flows from subtle, consistent adjustments to your consciousness maintained with patience over time. Like water finding its natural path around obstacles rather than fighting them. Your desires manifest through the channels you create by gently shifting your internal state again and again, day after day, until the new frequency becomes your default way of being. The impact of this approach is profound. Most people exhaust themselves trying to force outcomes through sheer willpower, never realizing that the smallest shift in identity, the gentlest opening into receptivity, the most subtle alignment of consciousness can accomplish what years of struggle never could. If you're beginning to see that the journey isn't about doing more, but about being different, type "I'm opening my hands" below. There's something nobody talks about when they discuss manifestation and desire: the shadow that lives beneath every intention you set. A musician named Victor would declare passionately that he wanted to share his music with the world, yet every time an opportunity appeared, his hands would tremble and his throat would close. He'd find reasons to step back, excuses that seemed logical in the moment, but revealed a deeper truth operating beneath his conscious awareness. Within every desire lives an opposing force, a shadow born from fear and unconscious resistance. These hidden counterweights silently sabotage your stated intentions, creating conflicting frequencies that cancel out what you claim to want. Victor's shadow whispered that success would mean exposure, judgment, the loss of his comfortable anonymity. Until he acknowledged this hidden resistance and integrated it, his conscious desire remained powerless against the opposing force operating in the darkness of his psyche. The revelations here point to something most people desperately want to avoid. You can't manifest what part of you secretly fears or resists. The transformation requires bringing those shadows into light, not to battle them, but to understand what they're protecting you from. Every block you experience isn't external, it's an internal conflict between competing frequencies, and the universe receives both signals, resulting in stagnation or partial manifestations that never fully materialize. But here's where it gets even more counterintuitive. There was a merchant named Norman who controlled every detail of his business with meticulous precision, clutching his strategies like sacred texts. One day his prized ledger vanished, and in his exhaustion from searching, he collapsed beneath a tree in complete surrender. In that exact moment of letting go, three strangers appeared, each bearing news of unexpected fortune, partnerships, trade routes, opportunities he'd never imagined. The paradox reveals itself clearly. The tighter you grasp at manifestation, the more it slips through your fingers. Surrender isn't giving up, it's creating space for abundance to flow through channels far greater than your limited planning could ever devise. Now, I want to go even deeper into why this works, because the mechanics here challenge everything you've been taught about achievement and success. A man named Howard spent years trying to force his way through life, meeting every obstacle with more effort, more strategy, more control. Then, one morning, he simply loosened his grip, and life began transforming in ways that seemed almost magical. What he discovered was profound. Struggle doesn't arise from difficult circumstances. It arises from your resistance to what is. The moment you withdraw your opposition, the very thing you've been fighting against either transforms into something useful or dissolves completely. This isn't passive resignation, it's active alignment with the invisible forces that orchestrate creation itself, forces that possess intelligence far beyond your conscious mind's ability to strategize and plan. The impact of this understanding changes everything about how you approach your desires. You stop trying to control every variable and start trusting the responsive nature of reality itself. If you're beginning to see that your resistance might be the very thing blocking your breakthrough, type "I'm releasing the grip" in the comments. Here's something that will challenge everything you think you know about time and reality. Time itself is not the rigid mechanical progression you've been taught to believe in. There was a clockmaker named Lawrence who faced an impossible deadline to repair an ancient tower clock, work that should have taken days. Instead of panicking, he settled into a state of absolute certainty, and something extraordinary happened. Minutes stretched like hours, giving him space to work with precision. Hours compressed into moments, and what should have been impossible became effortless. Time responded to the certainty in his heart, bending itself around his unwavering inner state. The hidden truth here is radical. Time is not a fixed framework against which you struggle. It's a fluid medium that responds to your consciousness. And when you release doubt and embrace complete certainty, the illusion of linear time begins to dissolve, revealing its malleable nature. Think about the implications of this for your own journey. How many times have you said there's not enough time, that you're running out of opportunities, that the window is closing? Those aren't objective truths about reality. They're beliefs you're holding that time then mirrors back to you. A man named Alistair understood this deeply. while everyone around him rushed. Frantically through their days, he maintained an unshakable inner calm. Deadlines seemed to bend around his needs. Opportunities arrived at precisely the right moment. Obstacles dissolved before his steady gaze. What appeared miraculous to others was simply the natural result of his sovereign state of being. The universe wasn't responding to his external circumstances or the pressure of clock-ticking urgency. It was responding to his dominant state of consciousness. And when you claim sovereignty over your inner state, time itself, along with circumstances and apparent limitations, must bow before that authority. Now, I want to go even deeper into what makes this level of mastery possible, because there's a specific mechanism operating here that most people completely miss. A merchant named Everett faced mounting debts and dwindling opportunities, the kind of situation that would send most people into panic and desperation. But instead of reacting to his circumstances, he made a decision that seemed insane to everyone around him. He assumed prosperity as his natural state, regardless of what his bank statements showed. He didn't hope for better conditions. He didn't visualize or affirm or try to attract abundance. He simply assumed it was already his reality, and he moved through his days from that place of inner knowing. Within weeks, his external world began reshaping itself to match his assumption. Unexpected opportunities emerged, resources flowed from unforeseen channels, and what had seemed impossible became inevitable. The master key of manifestation isn't what you wish for, or even what you work toward. It's what you assume to be true at the deepest level of your being. Your sustained assumptions are commands that the universe has no choice but to follow, because reality operates as a perfect mirror, reflecting back whatever you've accepted as fact in consciousness. The transformation happens not when you change your desires, but when you change your assumptions about what's already true for you. If this is landing for you, if you're starting to see that assumption is the bridge between where you are and where you want to be, drop "I assume it's done" below. The most liberating discovery you can make is realizing that your attention is the most powerful creative tool you possess, and most people give it away unconsciously to whatever screams the loudest. There was a man named Sylvester who spent his mornings counting his worries like rosary beads, his dwindling savings, his uncertain future, his mounting concerns. One day, completely absorbed in tending his garden, he forgot to think about his problems, and that evening he noticed something remarkable. His usual anxiety hadn't appeared. And more strikingly, opportunities had begun flowing toward him without any effort on his part. He experimented further, deliberately withdrawing his attention from financial worries, treating them as shadows without substance. Within weeks, unexpected income sources emerged, as if his withdrawal of worried attention had created a vacuum that abundance rushed to fill. The hidden truth revealed itself with clarity. What you energize with your attention grows and flourishes, while what you ignore withers and dissolves. Your focus acts like a beam of light, bringing to life whatever it touches, making attention itself the water that sustains every circumstance in your experience. But here's where the power becomes truly profound. A merchant named Raymond walked through the marketplace one morning and had a revelation that changed everything. He'd always believed circumstances chose him, that opportunities either came his way or they didn't, that he was subject to forces beyond his control. Then he realized with startling clarity that he had always been the chooser, never the chosen. In every single moment, infinite possibilities exist simultaneously, but only those he fed with his attention could materialize. Into his lived experience, his focus was the selection mechanism, the water that allowed certain seeds of reality to sprout while others remained forever dormant. This made him not a victim of circumstance, but the sovereign ruler of energetic selection, consciously determining which version of reality he would experience through the simple act of choosing where to direct his attention. Now, I want to go even deeper into the mechanics of how this actually creates change in the physical world. Because understanding it intellectually is one thing, but wielding it consciously is where the real transformation happens. There's a story about a gardener named Irving who would sit quietly each morning before touching the soil, holding a crystal-clear vision of his garden in perfect bloom. A traveling sage stopped to watch him work and smiled knowingly, telling Irving that his silent inner command was shaping unseen forces more powerfully than any physical action he could take. Intention operates like an architect's blueprint drawn before construction begins. It designs the invisible template that matter and circumstances must follow. When you set a clear intention, you're not just hoping or wishing. You're activating forces beyond physical sight that begin arranging events, coordinating opportunities, and aligning energies to manifest your chosen outcome. This is the hidden technology operating behind every seeming miracle, every unexpected breakthrough, every moment when reality seems to bend in your favor. The impact of grasping this changes your entire approach to life. You stop scattering your attention across 1,000 worries and distractions. You become deliberate about where you direct your focus, knowing that wherever your attention goes, reality follows. If you're beginning to see that you've been unconsciously feeding the very circumstances you don't want, type, "I choose where my attention goes" in the comments. There's a practice so powerful that it collapses the very illusion of time itself, and it's simpler than you might imagine. A scholar named Cyrus spent years dreaming of becoming renowned in his field, always looking forward to some distant future when he would finally arrive at success. Then one night, sitting alone in his modest shop, he tried something different. Instead of visualizing his future self or hoping to become that person someday, he simply merged with the consciousness of his accomplished self right there in that moment. He didn't imagine it, he became it. He absorbed the certainty, the wisdom, the authority of the scholar he would be, and he carried that state into every breath, every decision, every interaction. Within weeks, the external circumstances began shifting to match his internal transformation. Distinguished academics sought his counsel. Opportunities appeared that had been invisible before, and his reality reorganized itself around the identity he had claimed in consciousness. This goes far beyond visualization or affirmation. It's the art of assuming the consciousness of fulfillment now, understanding that the universe responds not to what you wish to become, but to who you are being in this present moment. But here's what nobody tells you about this level of transformation. It requires the death of your old identity, and most people aren't willing to let that version of themselves die. A bookshop owner named Fletcher clung desperately to his identity as the keeper of ancient knowledge, watching his shelves empty as the world moved digital, fighting against change with every fiber of his being. Then, one morning, he simply released his grip. He let go of who he thought he should be and discovered his true role as a bridge between timeless wisdom and modern seekers. The universe operates through dissolution and renewal, and when you release an outdated version of yourself, the reality that was supporting that old identity naturally begins to fade, creating space for what you are becoming. This isn't loss, it's liberation. The structures and circumstances that once defined you must dissolve to make room for the expanded version of yourself that's trying to emerge. Now, I want to go even deeper into what happens when everything we've discussed comes together, because there's a point where all these separate principles merge into one unified force. There was a seeker named Randolph who spent years studying techniques, mastering practices, collecting knowledge about manifestation and power. Then one night, standing beneath a vast starlit sky, all his seeking simply fell away. In that moment, three streams merged into a singular force within him. His awareness expanded beyond the boundaries of thought. His identity shifted beyond all limitation, and his feeling rose beyond any trace of doubt. When these three aspects aligned as one unified state, creation became as effortless as breathing. Reality stopped responding to what he was trying to do and started responding to what he simply was. This is the forbidden formula that Machiavelli encoded in his work, the secret that separates those who shape history from those who are shaped by it. When awareness, identity, and feeling flow as one stream rather than three separate rivers, manifestation becomes your natural state of being. The revelations here point to something radical. You don't need more techniques or practices or knowledge. You need integration. You need to become the unified field of consciousness that generates reality from within, rather than attempting to manipulate it from without. If this understanding is settling into your bones, if you can feel the shift from doing to being, type, "I am the unified field," below. So here we are at the end of this journey through Machiavelli's hidden code, and if you're still with me right now, that tells me something important about you. You're not just passively consuming content, you're actively seeking the truth behind the surface, the mechanics operating beneath appearances. That makes you exactly the kind of person this channel was created for. If this resonated with you, if something clicked into place while you were listening, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. The content here isn't random. It's designed to help you see through the illusions that keep most people trapped in unconscious creation. Every video builds on these principles, going deeper into the hidden architecture of reality and empower that the world doesn't want you to understand. And leave a comment saying, "This message was meant for me," so I know you made it all the way through. It helps me understand who's really engaging with this material, and honestly, it creates a connection between us that goes beyond just watching a video. When you declare that this was meant for you, you're claiming it in consciousness, and that act itself begins shifting your reality. If you found value in this, give it a like, not for the algorithm, but as an acknowledgement between us. You received something here, and that exchange matters. Now, there's a video right here that takes this even deeper. It explores what happens when you actually begin applying these principles in real time, the mistakes people make and the shortcuts that accelerate the entire process. Click on it and continue with me over there. The journey doesn't end here. This was just the beginning of remembering what you've always known. I'll see you in the next one.